My name's Dr. Emily Sandoz. I am a professor of psychology here at UL Lafayette. I use she, they pronouns. First off, I feel super honored to have earned this award. This is an opportunity for us to put forward to the university all of what we've done. It's really validating and an honor to represent UL in this way.
Emily Sandoz is an intellectual powerhouse. She is engaging with her discipline at the highest level, but she's also bringing the fruits and the results of that engagement to everybody at the university, but most importantly to her students.
For me, the appeal was clinical psychology. I get to teach, I get to train people to be clinicians, I get to be a clinician myself, and I get to run a program of research on those very issues that I'm interested in clinically.
She really reaches out to students and meets them where they are and draws them in.
My favorite thing about my job as a professor is definitely mentorship. Either nurturing a young clinician to the point where they get to provide this safe and healing context to somebody in our community, or, nurturing a young researcher to where they get to make their own independent contribution to the scientific literature. It's something that goes beyond teaching, and that to me is just phenomenally rewarding.
I've heard stories from the students who Emily Sandoz has invited into her laboratory and engaged in her research. I've spoken to students who have said that experience turned not only their academic careers, but their lives around.
I think my students benefit in a couple of ways from being part of the lab. One is just the exposure to the opportunity to contribute to science. The second thing I would say is, the inclusion of people. The students get the opportunity to sit down with somebody who has a full-time clinical practice and go, how does that work for you? What do you like about it? What was your training like? How does research fit in with what you do every day? So much of science is kind of shrouded in a fair amount of elitism. So a big value of the lab is to sort of kick down some of those barriers and to see what happens when you put people that don't have those kinds of resources in the position to contribute to science.
Emily Sandoz brings a very special perspective to her research. She is interested in issues that touch everyone, and that she feels that these are deeply important questions, but questions that everybody can join in helping to find the answers to.
I started the Louisiana Contextual Science Research Group. These are some students, undergrad students, some master's level students, but also colleagues. We've got folks right now in Belgium, we've got folks in Peru, we've got folks from India, and then all over the US. So what we are as a lab is a group of people that are doing basically three things. We collect data to answer research questions. We do clinical work about that. And then another big contribution is conceptual analyses.
Emily Sandoz has done a tremendous job. Her research is cutting edge in her field, but it also reaches a very broad audience.
I think a lot of people come at diversity and the kind of questions about inclusion and equity from almost a moral perspective. But I think in science, there's also a practical advantage. It means that for every new perspective that's included, for every voice that's added, for every new pair of eyes that look at those data, that read that paper, that listen to that analysis, there's a new perspective. And what we bring together is a more complete picture.
She has led the graduate program in that department for many years as graduate coordinator, while still teaching a full load and while still publishing her research. And her colleagues really, really appreciate the passion and dedication that she puts into that.
I love teaching at UL Lafayette. I would not pick to be anywhere else. There are so many people that I would like to acknowledge and thank. I have an enormous amount of gratitude for every student who has come through the lab. I'd also like to thank the folks around here. I'd like to thank some of my mentors, Dr. Kelly Wilson, Dr. Rick Perkins, who was an early mentor and who is now one of my colleagues. I think I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Dave Greenway. So Dave died a few years ago, but was also a mentor turned colleague. I guess lastly, my partner Jonathan, my kids, there's no way that I could do anything like what I do without them standing behind me and supporting me and keeping me humble.
Emily, you deserve this more than anyone I know in the college. Your research has been amazing since the moment you got here, and it's been wonderful to see your career build and grow in your time here. And I love the fact that you've managed to do that in a way that invited everybody into the fruits of your work and your research. Congratulations.